Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Ground Control to Major Nerds. My name is Shrikant Avionics Systems Engineer, and today we have an interesting episode. I think we're gonna be staying true to our name today. On this episode, we're gonna be doing some major nerding. What the heck? All right, that's how we start off an episode with Parvesh getting kicked out of the session. Do not edit, producer. Do not edit this section. Let him realize what he has done. And I don't think so he can join back because the recording has started already. Do we allow him back,
Really?
guys? Do we allow him back? Like, is that an option? Should we allow him or should we let him be? Because I think if we don't allow him, we don't have an episode, right? Because he's a major nerd.
Yeah, he's the resident gaming and anime expert, and we need him.
Oh,
in
he
today.
joins back. Okay, that's
I'm
great.
back.
All right. So yeah,
I don't know what
I
happened.
I think we can do a major nerding session now that we have our major nerd back. So yeah, great start to
He
our
was just
episode.
leveling up.
He was just leveling up his camera because first he
yeah.
was
Leveling
on
up.
5G network, now he's on Wi-Fi network. So, you know,
Yeah,
it works out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. With that being said, I would like to introduce you guys to my constant co-hosts, Ashwini and Parvesh. Ashwini, you want to start off first? How are you
Hi.
doing?
Yes. He said, Ashwini, level up your headphones.
So my stream is lagging, by the way.
Okay. We don't know you yet, Parvesh. Hold on. All right, Ashwini, let's go. How you doing?
Hi. Welcome back to today's episode. I'm doing great. And I'm really looking forward to today's episode. I want to talk about my obsession with the cartoon Centurions and with Liv Tyler in Armageddon. I'm all up for it.
Okay, hold on. Before, I know people are very eager to jump into things. Let's just introduce everybody first and also, make sure that the producer doesn't have too much work on this episode. Okay, let's give them like a breathing room over here. So, all right. Our second constant co-host, Parvesh. How you doing, man?
Hi. I'm Parvesh, business analyst, gaming expert, and anime expert.
Okay.
Adept.
Adept. Okay. What are you wearing? Because we are wearing normal things. What are you wearing?
This is a hoodie from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, that's very oversized.
Nice.
Like like it can accommodate like another person in it or something. Like seems like
Someday,
a little bit
maybe.
oversized. Oh,
Someday, maybe.
someday maybe.
This is
Okay.
supposed to be what Parvesh wears when he goes into the time chamber. He's supposed to train for a year and come out, and then it's supposed to fit.
All right, that's what
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
doing in this episode,
Are
guys.
they
As you
all
can see
jacked?
from the intros itself, there's a lot of offshoots of all sorts of pop culture references that's going to happen. So yeah, today's episode is about pop culture references of aerospace and also about anything to do with innovations and yeah. So without further delays, yes, Parvesh wanted to say something.
No, I meant like ideas of innovation.
Ideas of innovation, yeah, okay, sure, from the pop cultures or from whatever we have
Yeah.
consumed as media growing up and also still consuming media, I guess. Also, I would like to take a quick note and also appreciate our producer in the background who is always helping us with all our crazy content that we actually keep producing and making her life miserable. That's Pallavi. So we always are very appreciative of her work, so thank you. Thanks a lot for the efforts that you put in. All right. With that said,
Thank you, Pallavi, for making us look good and less stupid.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. All right. With that said, Parvesh, do you want to start off? Like, where does your where do you want to start off today's major nerding session? Like, what is your craziest reference to aviation from like pop culture or gaming or anything? Like what's the first thing that comes to your mind when we talk about like aviation references or aerospace references or space references in pop culture or gaming?
So I'll start off with anime, okay? Because gaming I can talk way too much about. So let's start with with anime.
Mhm.
Ashwini had mentioned earlier about Centurions. Along with Centurions, there was SWAT Kats, where there was just like two mechanics in a garage, and then they make like crazy aeroplanes, machines, and they go fighting crime. Like it pisses all of the it pisses off all of the government in SWAT Kats, right? They're like, "Oh, how can you do this? Like it's our job." So that is one of the um inspirations I had. Apart from that, there's a few anime. I guess it's not technically aerospace, but it does happen in space, which is Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam, and Ninja Robots, both of which have like these cool machines that like transform and they all like work in space. So imagining like me either being in one of those machines or me building one of those machines, right? So I had mentioned earlier innovation, right? Think about like being able to build a machine that transforms from like a machine gun, like how transformers are in the movies, but with like a person piloting it.
So basically, jetpacks and robotics combined together with a
Yeah, but
human
in
piloting the
space.
machinery,
Yeah, but in space.
but in space. Okay.
Yeah. There's a few others shows. Ashwini had mentioned Armageddon, right? So there's a similar anime called Stratosphere, where like they're waiting for a comet to collide with Earth, and they go up into space to go break it up or to destroy it, something. It's been a long time since I watched those animes. There's a few more. There's a few that it's nice to imagine like a future in which humans are in space, we're colonizing other planets and stuff. So in that context, there was anime called Cowboy Bebop, where these guys are basically mercs in space, and they're going on their cool adventures and getting caught up in like politics. So yeah, those are some of the anime that impacted me. I'll get back to gaming
We
later.
should
You guys go ahead.
we should do a deeper dive into SWAT Kats, because for me it was one of the most legendary cartoons I have seen as a kid. Uh, it is basically Batman meets Top Gun, but the characters are all cats. It is amazing.
And and they even go into like other dimensions.
Exactly. They have, so essentially the two main characters, T-Bone and Razor, right? They are two mechanics who have been thrown out of the police academy. So they make their own renegade team. They work at a junkyard, and using components from junkyard, they create their airplane, which is the Turbo Cat. And this is a cartoon in the 90s, has an airplane that is able to do vertical takeoff. It has scramjet speeds. It has stealth tech. It has hover modes. The missiles have grappling hooks. They have deployable mini planes. Razor has a bike that is built into the jet. It is an
They
insane
come out
jet.
from the bottom.
It comes out from the bottom. Exactly. It is like a Frankenstein monster of every cool idea that is ever there. And it works in a cartoon. Nowhere during the cartoon when I was watching it was there a suspension of disbelief. I was totally involved in this cartoon. I was like, yes, this is possible. This is definitely possible. And it's sort of like watching an F-14, and it meets this sort of Harrier, which is able to like do a vertical takeoff and landing. And some of the missiles that they have are insane. There's like the buzzsaw missile. There is a missile that throws out cement and it hardens criminals in place.
Oh, they
And
have the net
there's a,
one.
yeah, the spider missile. It becomes a
Yeah,
net
yeah.
and it captures people. It was an amazing thing to see. And Razor he had sort of like a Batman belt sort of gadget called a Glovatrix. So you could
Did you
any tool
watch for
required.
researching this topic?
Dude, I actually went back and saw this cartoon on YouTube, and I was like, it ages so well. I watched it and I was like, okay, this is still cool. This is not something that I watched today and cringe. It is still cool. And yeah, the villains were also really cool. I remember Dark Cat being the main villain. And apart from that, my favorite villains in the show were the Metallic Cats, which were cyborg monsters.
Crazy. Cyborgs.
Yeah, it's insane. And the part that really ages well for me is technology that was sort of animated way back in the 90s still holds true today. We are still doing research, tech-based research in these fields. And so that is why it is an amazing watch. To anyone out there who's not watched this cartoon, watch it. It is amazing. And
Yes.
it really shows what you can do with sort of like DIY innovation, with custom engineering, and even if you're not into any of the engineering themes of the show, it's just really cool watching cats fly an airplane and fight crime.
I guess
Our
I
avionics architect hasn't watched it.
no. Who said that? I watched my whole life that those cartoons, especially SWAT Kats, definitely in Hindi and in English, by the way. But the
Oh
point is,
yes,
the point is that I think I subconsciously forgot most of it because you grow up, but unconsciously you remember certain things when you're trying to write requirements for maintainability and stuff like, oh yeah, we can actually scrap this. And then so I it's not like I've not been influenced by that show. It's just that I've forgotten how I was influenced by that show. I guess that's why I'm not going into that depth of detail that you guys are going into. That's about it. It's just that I'm like, yeah, those things did exist, but that's all. I don't remember the politics or the how the origin story of theirs came about. I forgot about all that. But the F-14 like aircraft that they built, yeah, I remember that. And then the bike that comes down from his
right.
seat behind, yeah, which becomes into a bike. Yeah, I do remember all that, but uh, yeah, other details, yeah, I've forgotten about those definitely.
Trust me, even right now, if you are traveling regularly, these cartoons are all available on YouTube and you can download them. So essentially, when I'm flying, this is my favorite thing to do: just watch cartoons. I was getting into watching Centurions again, which is I was so excited about doing this episode.
Centurions, the animation is so old. The ones I saw on YouTube,
I
it's
don't even know what you
not
guys are
aged well.
talking about. What is
Okay,
Just
Centurion?
listen.
So can you explain that to somebody who is like me, who has got no clue what the heck you guys talking about?
okay. So Centurions, you know why the episodes are really bad? Because it's a 1980s cartoon. Okay. Basically, it's an aerospace engineering fan fiction. There are three heroes. Uh, there is a land operation specialist. I think his name is Jake Rockwell. There is a sea expert. His name is Max Ray, and there is an air operation expert. His name is Ace McLeod. These three use advanced exoframe suits, and they allow them to plug them into like modular exoframe suits, but they have to yell out power extreme before this happens. Okay, so they yell out power extreme. There is a imagine like uh, Axiom has this sort of International Space Station replicate, right? They have their own space base. These weapon upgrade exoskeleton suits are all on that uh, space base. They are lasered down to them wherever they say power extreme. And there is this really cool montage where they are in an X position with their arms and their legs out. And it's like a 360 view where arms just sort of attached to their bodies. And now they're like fully pimped out with these really cool weapons. And it increases their speed, agility, it makes them stronger. And it gives them the weapons that they require for the particular mission. And so my favorite, obviously, and this was Ace McLeod, because he was this like jetpack Casanova, and he's an airborne specialist. He's got these wings that come out. He's got missiles. He's got these high altitude spacesuits, and he does just insane sort of mobility, and he's able to do these really cool maneuvers in air. And he basically embodied every fantasy I had as someone who wanted to get into aviation, because he was flying these exosuits. It's like taking these really cool aims. You can sort of say this was like a prelude to Iron Man, the movie. The comic existed way below, but way before. But the movie Iron Man, a lot of its concepts are from this cartoon called Centurions,
Centurions, yeah.
which is really cool. And the modular design of the weapons was just like way ahead of its time. And I think even now, you can do actual engineering programs with what they had sort of animated into the show at the time.
There's
So
a modular laptop right now.
yes, you've already got modular laptops. You've got modular electronics that have come in. So imagine having a future, and you have
Modular
exoskeletons that are
aircraft.
already,
there's already
yeah, you have exoskeletons.
that, that there's already integrated modular avionics. So just saying, we are ahead of
No,
that.
but that's at like a small level. You need to think of it as a big level. You take out the wings and you put new wings.
Basically, think of it as SpaceX plus Fortnite, where you have all of these weapons systems that come in on Fortnite. That, but you have your base in space. So yeah,
Okay. No, I do remember Centurion now. After you said Ace McCloud, I was like, oh yeah, that guy. Okay, I remember now. Okay, all right.
he had this ridiculous hairstyle,
Yeah,
which somehow never got affected by the aerodynamics around him.
yeah,
But
That's gel,
overall,
dude.
such a
That's
great cartoon.
gel.
Yeah, that's fair.
that's true. Okay, cool. So that was cartoons generally, but what about like realistic, like media streams that actually like impacted you in terms of like, you know, uh, your experience in in aviation or aerospace? Like, what do you think that comes into your mind? Like, okay, they did this in such a TV show or a movie or like some other form of media, and now it is actually a reality. If you do, you guys have any kind of those references that has become true now? It's actually currently
That is
there.
become true now.
Hmm.
Interesting.
For me, it's the drones, man. Like, I think there have been a lot of like futuristic dystopian like movies, for example, or games, for example, like the Detroit Become Humans thing. I think we are close to
Mhm.
that. Like the drones in Detroit Become Humans. Um, I think we are almost there, where there's going to be autonomous drones which are going to survey the whole area for people and instantly recognize if that's an AI drone or is it actually a human being, and if it's a human being, what are they up to, what are they doing, what's their location, what's their details, their bio and everything. And with that, the society is under a watch, basically. Even like Watch Dogs, I don't know if you played Watch Dogs, uh
Yeah.
thing, the last one, I forgot the name, but the Watchdog has got the same thing where like the whole of London is surveyed by these surveillance drones, and they, you know, if they're constantly watching everybody, and the government is using them to incarcerate criminals and stuff. So yeah, I think that is kind of almost a reality, like where it could be a possibility in like the next uh 10 to 15 years, where you know drones merging with AI agents, maybe, like or drones which are constantly, like, sorry, completely being autonomous, using AI agents to surveil places. I don't know.
Wait, you
Could be
mean
true.
like the drone flies around, finds a bad guy, and then the drone's consciousness goes into an AI cop, and then he goes and picks the
No,
criminal
no,
up?
no, no, no. Just surveillance, right? Like the drone
Okay.
is just doing regular surveillance, and it finds and since it is, you know, constantly flying around autonomously, if it detects an activity which was not per the norm or lawfully, allowed in the society, it will then trigger actions to be taken by the authorities immediately. So,
There's a series that came out at one point. It was called Person of Interest.
hmm.
It was similar, but it's not like using drones or aerospace tech. It was just cameras and all that, and then it'll like,
Yeah.
I don't remember how that series went.
This goes back to when we used to play Call of Duty together. There was an entire mode where you could call a drone to do an airstrike. That is something
That
which
is
is a
true now.
realistic feature now,
Yeah, that is
where
true
you
now.
are using drones as loitering munitions to strike an area of interest. What you mentioned about Detroit Become Human is essentially a sentry drone, where it is assigned a waypoint path and it is always circling that periphery, and it is using onboard camera sensors to see any sort of movement. And when movement is captured, it uses its sensors to identify and do a facial recognition, facial analysis, and see if they can identify who this miscreant is. So excellent. When I played the game, excellent use of technology. The drones are very realistic, and I can say that such drones are now in production, and such drones are definitely possible. So yes, what you're saying is true. I will give another example of a movie going way back to in the 2010s. James Cameron's movie Avatar that had come out.
Mm.
It featured this helicopter when they go into the planet Pandora, right?
Dora,
It
yeah.
was called Pandora, yeah. So they have this VTOL sort of helicopter which has thrust vectoring on its four uh, blades,
Yeah.
right? It's rotor assemblies. So, and they fly and they're able to sort of mimic almost the flight of a dragonfly. So that was really cool to see way back in 2009. And I know that now you have uh, the Apache AH-64 or the Eurocopter Tiger, which or the Osprey.
Osprey.
These realistic sort of helicopters and
They were before Avatar's time already designed
right,
and everything.
they were inspirations
But they
for
were,
this
yeah,
futuristic design.
that's true. That's true. But
But to be
also,
able to,
yeah, but also
yes, go ahead.
Bell flights are coming up with new modern, VTOL slash, you know, transitional choppers, which are gonna do exactly what the Avatar's, chopper is gonna do basically. So yeah, that's an inspiration right there.
To watch it in a movie, albeit it was for the bad guys and they did some really evil stuff using that helicopter. But to be able to see stuff like VTOL capability, extremely high maneuverability, to have pilot input as well as have autonomous flying in those systems, it is like watching this sort of over caffeinated version of helicopters that exist. And that was way back in 2009.
Yeah,
So that was really cool to watch.
true. Cool. Those are all great references. What about any of the movies or TV shows that actually like depict real life stuff that has happened, real life incidents that happen in terms of aerospace or space? I mean, obviously, air crash investigations has been one of the most craziest inspirations for me to also get into aviation and learn more. And it's been educational, to be honest, like how things actually shifted in aviation because of the air crashes that have happened. But other than that, like, what else do you guys think a movie or any kind of TV show that like was like so crazy for you that, oh my god, this actually happened and this is why things have changed in this space?
Parvesh, go.
Think of any, dude. I don't watch movies that much.
Okay, then I can give you two or three really cool examples. Of course, you mentioned air crash investigations,
Hmm.
which as a TV show was something I watched as a kid with my brother, and it is uh, horrible to watch, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it is so interesting.
Yeah.
You see these depictions of real life incidents and how people learned from these very severe episodes, that very severe incidents that happened.
Hmm.
So watching those was great. It is like it is like watching an accident. You can't take your eyes off
Mm.
that episode. So that was amazing to watch. From the movie point of view, watching Sully as a
Oh
movie
yeah.
when it came out was
Oh,
excellent.
yeah.
A very realistic incident that happened. Uh, as a passenger on an airplane, we rarely get to see what the pilot's point of view is. and
Yeah.
how quickly they have to, like, you cannot react how you would as a passenger. As a passenger, you would essentially just start praying. But as a pilot, you have to always have that presence of mind. You always have to fight all of the odds and ensure that your life and the life of every passenger on board is safe. So it was an amazing movie to see. What a miraculous incident that happened in real life, but then to make a movie out of it, uh, again, great movie to watch.
For for
Apart from that,
for me,
go
actually,
ahead.
on Sully, I think more than the incident itself and how the pilot's presence of mind and everything that prevailed for him to make those actions. I think for me, the investigation part of the FAA,
Right.
that whole narrative of the movie was, I think, brilliant. I don't know how true those narratives were, but at the same time, uh, the whole NTSB investigation and the FAA investigation, and when they, like, for us as engineers, we just have one perspective, which is, oh, there's SOPs. Why did they follow the SOPs immediately, right? And for me to see, like, when human factors are involved and when incidents like that happen on and how humans react differently, and that perspective of it actually was a big, like a thing that took me into that, like I took that away from the movie, like that perspective of a pilot, like an experienced pilot will actually always think about it in a different way than a pilot who is not gone through those experiences. And also human factors, even though we write SOPs and everything, we forget that at the end of the day there are humans who are flying this, and everybody has their own reactive, you know perspective of the situation. Like Sully was good at analyzing the situation and making those calls to, you know, land on the Hudson, because he knew how the aircraft performs. He knew that the aircraft could be floating on water if he does this landing. But uh, uh, the way the investigation showed that, oh, immediately as soon as the bird strikes happened, if you would have actually turned around to this vector, you would have actually maybe landed back to Titerboro, or like to like Newark, or sorry, to JFK, whereas he had to let them know that no, we didn't have time to react. We didn't have like a manual to immediately say, okay, yeah, let's turn left and just land over there. We had to analyze things. We had to go through a checklist and then add human factors on top of it, because there was a shock value to it, and then we took our decisions. So that thing kind of was a lot of learning moment for me, to be like, there's a different perspective in the cockpit, which is the pilot's perspective, which you need to think about when you're doing all the systems engineering work. So yeah.
You know, that reminds me, there's another movie similar to this, which I saw very long back. I think Denzel Washington was a pilot.
Flight.
Flight,
Yes,
okay.
Ha, Flight.
exactly.
Yes, that's also similar, right?
No, but
Yes,
it is imaginative though, of flying the aircraft upside down. So
upside down. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, while it is crazy and like was brilliant, but yeah, far from reality though. It's nuts.
Right, but they get the pilot psychology and the human error part really
True,
well.
true, true, true,
And the
true,
way they
true.
investigate that part of the movie is very
That's
realistic.
brilliant. Yes,
The actual
absolutely.
incident of flying the plane upside down was a little far fetched.
Yeah, a little far fetched. Yeah, more than little far fetched. But yes, the investigatory part, the NTSB and the FAA investigation again was spot on. Like the way they go through data, the way they go through the details of it, and yeah, that was insane in that movie too. Yes, absolutely.
But movies that wanted you to get into aviation, I can immediately name three. There's
Mhm.
obviously Catch Me If You Can, where
Oh
Leo
yeah,
DiCaprio shows us what the glam of commercial aviation is like. And then, of course, you cannot have any conversation without talking about the Top Gun movies.
true.
Then, yeah.
Absolutely, definitely. Um, One of the movies, like which were not like, inspirational, like for me to get into aviation, but fascinated me about, like, oh, I think I need to explore more of this topic, which is space, right? Like it was Interstellar. Like how Interstellar, like, was narrated about this futuristic situation that we may all be in, where Earth is, exhausted of all its resources, and how, like, we have to travel through space to find another home for humans. And the narration of this whole uh journey of these astronauts who somehow figure out that they have no other option than to you know let go of their planet and find another home. And the psychology of, where one astronaut or one person is like, nope, we'll always find a solution up there to bring it back to earth, or take everybody back with us, and the other being like, it doesn't matter who will be alive or not, we need to repopulate and expand the human race somewhere else. That kind of polar decision making was epic in that movie, and also the science behind the time dimension was just insane. So had to watch it twice or thrice. I'm not gonna lie, I did not understand it the first time, but
Yeah,
it
have that try.
it was so epic, though. It's still just like, I think it was a masterpiece that will always stay there.
Surprisingly, if you take out the romance portion of Wally,
Mm,
you get a similar plot because everyone's stuck in space.
yeah.
That was a really cute
Wally.
movie.
Wally is one of my favorite movies that has hardly any dialogue,
Oh yeah.
has hardly any human characters, except for the latter half when they're all on the space station. And it still shows us this movie of how uh, love is at the end the strongest force. It is not gravity, it is not time, it is not space travel. It is love that helps
Absolutely.
us, and that is also the message in Interstellar, by the way.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
so that is a great thing to get into. But I love Wally. It's one of my favorite movies,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
very
shows
cute
how
movie.
humans sort of lose their touch with humanity, and they've gone into space, and they're leading lives like robots, where people are telling the system is telling them what to do, what to wear, what color is a good color, what to drink, what to eat, and then it's the robot on Earth, Wally, who is discovering things while compacting trash and experiencing what it is to be human. So, fantastic movie.
But that also tells you that perseverance of human beings is always greater than anything else. Like, they once they realized that they were getting scammed by uh the captain robot, or
The AI.
whatever,
Isn't
the
that
ship
also
captain.
Axiom?
Yeah, actually, it is Axiom. You're right. That's amazing. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Actually, yeah, the starship's name is Axiom and the captain's name is something I forgot. But yeah, that's an Axiom space. Yeah. Okay. Did we
This
start
is
a
what happens when you
conspiracy?
start privatizing space travel. We'll all
Did
eventually
we
become
con?
fat.
Did we start a conspiracy? That's what is the bigger question over here. Did we start a conspiracy theory over here? Axiom space. Okay. Anyways, I'm joking, but yeah. So yeah, these movies have been always been like, wow. I mean, I've never been inspired by them to get into aerospace or something, but always has been fascinating, the space side of things. So.
If I may,
Mhm.
just quickly heading back to Interstellar, you described what the plot was. For you, what part of the movie was something that you guys felt this is realistic? This is where we will eventually move towards technology, and what part of it felt like this is a bit too much? This is not going to happen.
The black hole part was too much. That's the only place where I'm like, I no.
I don't know.
That
I
seems like a stretch.
But it was a stretch that I would like to believe. I don't know. Uh,
Yeah, I'd like to believe it,
yeah.
but it's a stretch.
But to
Yeah.
be, I have read this in a report that is published by this one of those newsletters about space, where they say if you approach a black hole,
Hmm.
you are not entering the black hole. You'll get there's something called stringing, where just the gravity difference between if you enter it feet first, the gravity difference between your feet and your head will be so high
Mhm.
that your toes will break off from your feet will break off from your ankles will break off from your knees. You'll
Become
essentially be
spaghetti.
pulled in. Yeah, like you'll be spaghettified. So entering a black hole, definitely not happening. But the robot towers.
But see,
Uh,
that is right. What you're saying is happening from the viewer's perspective. It doesn't happen from the person inside's perspective. So you're going to feel the gravity completely.
okay.
At least that's
I
what I
think
think.
it's also the person who's actually getting sucked into the black hole
No,
will get sucked
that's
into it
not
like
even
spaghetti.
like how can you have so much difference in gravity between like 2 points, right, that are right next to each other?
They are not.
Because you'll feel it completely. I think that's only from the viewer's perspective. Because time gets dilated there at the event horizon.
Won't the person die then at that point?
You're dying no matter where. By the time you reach the event horizon, you're dead.
Hey man, I'm just trying to throw a question out there. Don't have to be reactive like that, but okay. Anyways, for me, I think on Interstellar, I think the realistic thing or close to reality thing for me was the proof of relativity theory, right? The Miller's planet. 1 hour being
Right.
7 years on Earth. 1 hour on Earth. 1 hour on that planet is like 7 years on Earth. I think that is kind of realistic, and that could be true in like certain cases during space travel. I mean, whenever humans reach that capability of space travel, I think Einstein's theory of relativity will be tested and proved at that point.
Oh, but
So
time dilation already occurs in moving objects.
no, it does. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it'll be more realistically
Or
like visible,
pronounced. Okay.
right? Like
Right.
what happened
When
in
you're
that movie.
orbiting a black hole.
Yeah, when they were close to the gargantua, where time dilation was happening. So like that I think hit really hard for me, at least when I first time when I was watching the movie. I'm like, damn, that's they spent too much time on down there. When they came back up, the astronaut who was keeping the you know keeping up with the station was 50 years older. So or 25 years older. I can't remember the facts. I might be wrong, but yeah. So
For me, the best part of the entire movie was the robot towers.
that's true. I would
Excellent.
love to design
The
something like that in
design
the
on the
future.
robot was excellent. And for me, that was the most realistic part because we already are looking at missions where we are going to be sending robots to space with humans.
Yeah.
And this is something that I know ISRO has also been working on,
Mm-hmm.
where they are developing humanoid sort of robots with artificial intelligence that can reply to you, that are going to be holding conversations with you in space. So it really offsets that feeling of space loneliness we see in earlier movies. Like if you see 2001 Space Odyssey, or if you see Gravity, where there's just one person in space,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
get to understand how lonely space is and how humans would go crazy because there's no one to talk to.
While
So
while
this
that
entire
is
concept of
while that is true, even the whole thing about TARS, like doing all the SOPs for the
exactly
pilots, reducing the stress and removing the human factor errors, I think that's a great concept. If that could be done on even civil aviation, like have certified tools that could actually reduce the tasks that the pilots have to do, and then focus on more on the safety critical flying part. That could be helping like the whole safety net of things, even
Come,
in
we'll take
space.
that movie.
Huh?
We'll take that movie.
We'll take that movie. Yeah. Yeah.
You're
So
the hero.
wow. But yeah, that's my, I think, also the interesting point that you brought up. I completely forgot about tars, and the other one's name also I forgot. But yeah, those humanoids were amazing.
Star Trek and Star Wars, both of which we haven't still spoken about.
Okay, which side are you guys on? Let's start with Ashwini. Are you a Trekkie or a...
Ashwini's Trekkie.
Okay,
Trekkie for life.
and you are
Star Wars.
great. So I don't need to say anything. Why is Star Trek better than Star Wars, Ashwini?
Look, I won't necessarily say Star Trek is better than Star Wars.
Okay.
I just never had an emotional connection with Star Wars. When I was a young kid, I remember watching Star Trek with my mother. She was a huge fan of Captain Kirk. So we used to sit and watch Star Trek episodes together. I used
Which
to
Captain
understand
Kirk?
nothing.
Like William
What?
Shatner or
Yeah, William Shatner. So we used to watch episodes together, and that is basically why I was always into Star Trek, and never really actually got around to watching all of the Star Wars movies. Uh, I've seen enough to know what the pop culture references are, but I always seem to have an emotional connect with Star Trek. And uh, of course, the entire mission of heading into space uh, and exploring new lands is something which is very interesting. Obviously, now you can look at it as sort of a parallel between what these guys were doing in Star Trek and what uh, exploration was in the last century, where people from Europe sort of explored other lands. So a little bit of sort of colonial uh, overtones there, of course, but still a fantastic show to watch.
All right, Parvesh, what is your take on Star Wars, and why is you more into Star Wars than Star Trek?
so I like Star Trek. Star Trek is quite nice, but Star Trek is more it's like an adventure show, right? But Star Wars is more action. Like people are fighting each other with swords in a place where everyone has guns, right? With
Laser swords.
lightsabers, laser swords. That is just so cool. Every time you see a sword fight, it brings that kid inside you out, like, oh, like, it's just so cool. How can you say no?
Okay.
And then the first trilogy, although it was all like politics and stuff, there was pod racing, which was so cool. Like you had engines in front pulling uh the space pod, and then you're sitting in the back driving it and racing other like species.
Interesting.
That's why I like Star Wars.
For the record, I have never been interested in Star Wars or Star Trek. I know people are not going to like that comment, but I've never been into either one of them. So all my
Fake
knowledge.
avionics engineer.
What?
Fake avionics engineer.
Oh, here's the thing. See, being a systems engineer is you're just a jack of all, master of none. As long as I know the names exist called Star Trek and Star Wars and whom to get that information from, I'm good. I don't care what they are in detail. So yeah. Anyways, any more pop culture references that you guys want to talk about? I think we spoke a
I
lot
think we
about
can go
this.
to games.
Oh, you want to do games?
Games, I don't have much. One is you mentioned space travel, right? So basically, the plot of Mass Effect Andromeda, that's the new one that came out. It's not new now, but that's the latest one that came. There, you go to the Andromeda galaxy to create like um, a new colony, Earth colony and stuff. So that game was quite fun. There are other games. Like there was a point when I was in Riddle, right? That's when Kerbal Space Program came out. So for the propulsion exam, like a few days before, I'd put in those parameters while designing and run the basically Kerbal Space Program. You can build rocket engines and shoot them into space, right? So that was like my test uh, for whatever parameters I have while studying. So I used to put those parameters in and see if it'll go up.
That is insane.
It's a good game. Like it looks kind of not serious, but the physics it has is really good.
Please tell me that those
Right.
things did not fly with your parameters.
They did. I'm
Okay.
not that bad of an engineer, dude.
Um,
Trust me when I say Kerbal Space Program is one of the most chaotic and hilarious ways to learn orbital mechanics. Okay, and it so effectively blurs the line between nerd fun and actual aerospace education. So I would recommend everyone to play KSP and the
There's a
spaceflight
second one.
simulation. Yeah, the second one,
Yeah.
right? So essentially, for anyone who's not played the game, you design, build, and launch rockets, and these rockets use parts that mimic real life aerospace technology, and they all of this is managed by these really cute green small aliens called Kerbals. Okay, so it's amazing if you put in all of the wrong parameters, and there is explosive failure. And then if you actually get it right, you have this sort of eureka moment, and it's so much fun. The physics that they use is very realistic. They use Newtonian physics, they use orbital mechanics, and they use very accurate thrust to weight ratios. And I have very recently used this entire sort of engine on Kerbal Space Program to run a few simulations for one project that I was doing. So it still holds good. It is very realistic. I can completely understand what Parvesh said. He's used his own parameters. It is an amazing program to run.
that is
And
crazy.
I think, Shrikant, you will understand if I draw a parallel what flight simulator was when we were kids
Agreed.
and now what that has become. I'm sure you can talk more about this use of flight simulator, use of explain. So this is what Kerbal Space Program is like.
But I never thought like uh, a game with characters like looking like that goofy would be realistic. So that's why I'm just like
It is
I'm
really
not wanting to
realistic.
trust you guys. At the same time, I'm like, yeah,
You should get it and try.
okay.
It is so good.
Okay, maybe yeah, maybe that's what would be the move. Um, yeah, flight simulators and explains. I think these are two games. I say still. I don't know. It's such a blurry line to call them even games anymore because for my undergrad final year project, I think I used the S block set in MATLAB to talk to explains to show flight
Right.
controls working, right? So and this was 2012, like when in 2009 we were like saying like look at this, there's an explain, you can just put any kind of parameters and fly whatever aircraft you want. Like I wanted to fly an Air India flight or a Jet Airways flight or something, and since I was living in UK, so I was like trying to fly from Mumbai to London, for example, and things like that. And then next thing you know, it's a serious tool to validate your MATLAB simulating models. Like I'm like, okay, what happened over here? So things like that have actually evolved, and now flight simulators are doing the same thing. Now any kind of demo that I see around in my workplace or in any other OEMs, like unless and until they have created their own simulators from flight safety or something, they don't hesitate from using like Flight Simulator X or X-Planes. So yeah, things have like gaming has come into actual real life validation of designs too. So
I recently read this report submitted by one of the guys in, was it Japan? They were doing the study where they were looking at the wake created by aircraft engines, and they actually used Flight Simulator X models because the Flight Simulator X models create very realistic wake zones for aircrafts when they take off. So they used the models from Flight Simulator X to actually do the study of wake from coming out from an engine, which is amazing to see. I remember playing Flight Simulator way back years ago when I was a kid, and it was a very good game to play to learn how to fly. And it was this novelty that, oh, we're sitting in a cockpit and we're flying this huge Boeing 747. But now it's being used as a tool to further aerospace research. It's fantastic to see.
cool. All right. After going
Yeah.
through all these
This.
magnitudes of pop culture references, anything that we missed out?
No, I think
Probably
we can.
mythology.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead. Let's
the
let's cover that
OG.
too. The OG stuff, yes.
Icarus flying too close to the sun.
Talk to us,
Go on,
Parvesh.
Ashwini. This is basically, I believe Daedalus makes golden wings, and Icarus takes it out for a spin, flies too close to the sun, and then the wings that are made of wax start melting. And then he comes crashing down. That's the basic plot.
A lot of misunderstanding there of where the sun is, I guess. But just saying.
It's not just that. How do you make wax wings that will fly, dude?
Oh, you never know. True.
No, but mythology in itself is that it's about storytelling, right? So,
Yeah,
like for example, how as kids, I'm pretty sure we've all read Isaac Asimov novels, which talk about robotics. There are a lot of hidden sort of meanings to mythology. One of my favorite mythology stories, which sort of is related to this, is the Pushpak Viman from Ramayana, where it is, imagine having a flying chariot, which is a VTOL. It is
Yeah.
able to vertically take off and land. It's written about years ago. It's self-propelled. It is capable of flight without any animal or human propulsion, and it is spacious. You can seat what 5, 6 people in it, and it is autonomous. You basically put in with the location, you're giving it waypoints, and it is able to fly. So it is an AI powered VTOL with a smart assistant. And this was written about in mythology, right? So from an aerospace angle, uh, it is a clear getaway into like really cool aerospace themes. But I feel like we will sort of become sort of like the History Channel where we talk about ancient space aliens. So
ancient
I don't want to
aliens.
go. I don't want to go down that route.
That could be another episode. Why not? Like, trying to dig through
No,
history.
I feel mythology was more about the symbol of flight. We aren't claiming here that when the Ramayana was written, people had knowledge of AI and flight. It is the symbolic nature
Yeah.
of flying,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be this sort of divine thing that exists. But nowadays, you look at it, and it is available with science. And similarly, for the story of Icarus, it is more about the theme of human flight. It's about human ambition and the catastrophic
Hubris.
failure
Yeah.
that humans seem to have. It is a part of their life, and but it is also it's also true about aerospace, right? Because we have that ambition, we have that dream of flight, and we often have catastrophic failure on our way to success. So I feel like mythology is a great pop culture reference for any person who's into aviation or aerospace.
And Shrikant,
Yeah.
you don't want to open the can of worms that is aliens on this podcast.
Not yet. Not yet. I think some other time. I think we'll do that some other time.
That's like
The
4 episodes.
yeah, I mean, conspiracy theories, tin hat theories. Let's do it some other time. For this, it was just pop culture. So,
I
yeah.
will do
I'm
research.
disappointed that I still haven't got time to talk about the Top Gun movies and my all-time favorite movie, Armageddon.
Okay, we can still
But
talk. We can still
for
talk.
another time,
No, no, no.
We'll do it for another time.
No. You were very much before even we started the episode. We're talking about Liv Tyler. So
That can be your closing thoughts. Wrap it up. Wrap it up, Ashwini.
yeah,
Closing
yeah.
thoughts.
No.
I had to Google who Liv Tyler was, and you got annoyed by that. So go ahead, explain us what was Armageddon to you, Ashwini.
Okay, picture this. There is an asteroid that is the size of Europe, and it's hurtling towards Earth. Uh, NASA comes with this brilliant plan that they're going to take this team of oil drillers that is led by Bruce Willis, and they're going to give them astronaut training. Then they're going to launch them in 2 parallel launches that are going to go to this asteroid. They're going to land on the asteroid. They're going to drill into the asteroid, put nuclear bombs in there so that there is nuclear detonation and the asteroid splits into two and basically bypasses Earth so that all of humankind is saved. Okay. As a kid, when I watched this movie, I was fascinated. And not only because there was a lot of slow mo uh, action to the background of Aerosmith songs, and of course, there was a lot of Liv Tyler on screen. Those are not the only two reasons. But just imagine traveling onto an asteroid, landing down there, drilling into it, putting nuclear bombs, and detonating them, saving all of humankind. It just is so far fetched. It is a typical Michael Bay movie. Uh, but obviously, that's a smart question here to ask is it easier to teach someone who does oil drilling? Is it easier to teach them how to become an astronaut? Or is it easier to take an astronaut and teach them oil drilling?
You know the answer, don't you? You-
Exactly. But it is so wonderful to see this ragtag group of oil drillers become astronauts. It really for me it was like, oh, if these guys can become astronauts, I can become an astronaut.
okay.
For
I
me,
mean,
that is the charm of the movie. And apart from that,
you can buy a window seat on Blue Origin's next flight, right? Just saying.
this podcast will have to become really popular for me to earn enough money out of it to book a seat on
That is
Blue
true.
Origin.
That is true. But I'm just saying, like, times
Then
have
all
changed.
three of us can book seats.
Yeah, times have changed. Or
We
or Blue Origin could actually sponsor us window seats.
we
You know?
might have to start an exclusive Patreon sort of community where people pay us money. We can call it only Turbo Fans.
I never expected you to find. I thought you would not go down this direction that Parvesh led you to. I thought you're a better man than that. But
We
anyways,
got 2 out of 3 people on board, okay?
I still hold the veto, so no. Anyways, um, this thing is gonna stick in my head forever now.
But
Okay.
getting back to why I loved the movie,
We
Mm-hmm.
can do a
apart
Kickstarter.
from the typical Michael Bay action,
Mm-hmm.
uh, just the very novel concept of landing onto an asteroid. This is basically something that is now being done, where studies are being done to eventually land on asteroids, mine them for their minerals, and come back to Earth. This is very realistic study that is happening, and this was done way back in 1998. So again, very futuristic. Uh, love the Aerosmith songs. Obviously, love Liv Tyler. So one of my favorite movies related to space.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Cool. I think the clear favorite space movie obviously was the Interstellar, but Apollo 13 was another one for me, where I
Oh,
feel
dude,
like,
Apollo 13.
yeah, I think that movie was crazy to get inspired for problem solving. I think the way they showed problem solving there in that movie was just insane. You would not know the level of stress those NASA engineers were going through unless and until you watch that movie, or maybe have read through the transcripts of what happened. So yeah, that movie was crazy for me too. So yeah. All right, with that being said, anything else, guys? Any more?
But what about The Martian?
Yeah, yeah. Martian is another crazy movie. Yeah, I think again the spirit of human beings is like was tested in that movie too, right? Like you survive, the inevitable will be there if you do not, like, if you don't do anything, the inevitability that's gonna be coming. But at the same time, you start thinking and you figure out your way to get get any kind of possibility, any kind of solution in that situation. So I think, yeah, that movie was crazy too. And also, like, the fact that they were planning Mars missions, and the way they set up everything, I think that definitely tells us like somebody was inspired by that. Elon, I guess. I don't know. To have space colonies in Mars. So yeah.
For The Martian, the novel itself was great. And for me, it was, like you said, it is engineering problem solving and space farming. For me, that was fantastic. Just to watch Matt Damon not survive because of being superhuman. What we see with a lot of action movies, or he's just survived because even though he was shot 10 times, he survived because he's superhuman. No, Matt Damon very nearly dies many times in the movies, but he engineers a solution and he never gives up, and he calculates all of the probabilities and all of the possibilities, and he survives purely because of his mental fortitude and his knowledge. That for me was such a great takeaway from this movie. And
Amazing.
it's about solving one problem at a time. It's not about oh, I can see the destination now. No, it's taking one step at a time,
Yeah.
solving one problem at a time, and
And
you can
then
eventually reach your solution,
yeah.
which was great.
That brings us to the point of this episode. These are the qualities you need to pass aerospace engineering.
That is true. Wow, you're linking up to episode 2 now. Amazing. But also, I would like to point out one more thing. I hope I don't see Matt Damon needing rescue in space again in a movie. I'm tired of this. Like, he's either like trying to kill people or he's trying to get people into trouble to save him. Like, we don't need that anymore. Two is enough, I think. So, yeah. That being said, also recognizing that Parvesh's phone is going to die soon. I think we had a great
Hey, don't
episode.
blame things on me. What the hell?
What?
Don't blame things on me.
I mean, that's what was revealed in the chat. So, Uh, anyways, with that being said, I think we had a great episode. I think we covered a lot of pop culture references. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please fill it up with all your pop culture references, what we may have missed. We may actually come back to this episode again and do it again, and talk about few more things and nerd it out
Yeah, we
again.
haven't graced comics yet.
Yeah, I mean, Parvesh is like literally waiting to dive into the comic side and the anime side. So we barely gave him enough time to speak as well. And also, I think all of us have a lot of more topics to talk about. So you guys should put your comments down, give us more more of your pop culture references to discuss as well, and maybe just give us your explanations of what inspired you from the pop cultures to the aviation world. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this episode and listening to this episode. Please do like,
Thank
share, and
you.
subscribe. Please do put down your comments and also reach out to us at groundcontrol.majornerds@gmail.com for any of your questions or feedbacks that you may have. We are actually loving these topics and doing these episodes. And the biggest motivation for us is your likes and comments and views. So please do subscribe and please keep commenting. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Power exchange.
See you guys.
Centurions. Yes.